One of the most talked about figures in the life coaching and personal development space, Cheyenne Bryant, showed up at the Breakfast Club recently to address something that has been quietly circulating for a while now. The conversation around whether her credentials are legitimate and whether the doctorate she's built her entire brand around actually exists had finally reached a point where she felt she needed to respond publicly. But here's the thing. Her appearance didn't quiet the noise. It made everything significantly louder. Instead of walking in and shutting the conversation down with clarity and documentation, she essentially handed her critics every piece of ammunition they needed on a platform with millions of viewers watching in real time. Let's back up and lay out exactly what we're dealing with. For years, Cheyenne Bryant has operated under the title of Dr. Bryant. That credential is not a minor detail in her story. It is the entire foundation her platform is built on. Her authority, her coaching rates, her positioning as an expert in psychological wellness and personal development all trace directly back to that title. If you look at her official biography, the timeline reads like this. She claims she was attending Cal State University by the age of 17. From there, she says she entered a master's program at the University of Phoenix. But here is where the story starts getting murky. She never specifies what the master's degree was actually in, and she never clearly states whether she completed it. According to her own account, she found personal clarity somewhere in the middle of that program and decided to pivot to Argosy University to pursue a doctorate.
Things, what their doctorate is actually in, and whether they hold a relevant clinical license. In this case, the person you're about to hear from is unlicensed. I'm going to break down why that matters and why this particular message is harmful, especially to the Black community that she claims to be serving and that I actually serve.
A license is really only needed so you can bill insurance.
That is incredibly misleading. Yes, you do need a license to bill insurance, but that is not why licensure exists. Licensure protects you. It means I have completed specific education and supervised clinical hours, passed rigorous exams, and I'm accountable to a regulatory board. If I breach confidentiality, if I cross ethical boundaries or harm you, you have somewhere to file a complaint and be sure that I'm held accountable. A license is not paperwork just for billing. It's a consumer protection. When someone drops or loses or no longer has a license, they're not solely avoiding the insurance hassle. They're also removing your recourse if something goes terribly wrong.
Not binded by BBS, the Behavior Board Science of Science Rules and Regulations and Ethics, and so it just opened up a whole nother, floor in industry for me.
And she's also saying this like it's a good thing. I want to state something really important. Ethics codes exist to protect you from exploitation.
When the licensing question came up directly, Cheyenne's response was to brush it off by claiming that a license is essentially just a billing mechanism, something you need to charge insurance companies. Nothing more significant than that. That explanation is not just misleading, it is genuinely dangerous, and it needs to be addressed clearly. A clinical license has nothing to do with insurance paperwork. Licensing exists as a direct consumer protection mechanism. It means the person sitting across from you, or on the other end of your session, has completed the required clinical hours under supervised conditions. It means they have passed the board examinations that verify their competency. And most critically, it means they are accountable to a governing board that has real authority to investigate complaints, impose consequences, and revoke their ability to practice if they cause harm. When you work with a licensed therapist and something goes wrong, you have a clear and established path to report it. There is a system designed to hold that person accountable. When you pay an unlicensed life coach who is presenting themselves with the language and authority of a therapist, and something goes wrong, you have essentially no recourse. You are on your own. And here is where Cheyenne's positioning becomes particularly difficult to defend. In interviews and public appearances, she consistently refers to herself as a therapist. She uses that language.
I get it. So if I'm a mental health professional, I have to be licensed. I can't opt out. But if I use the word life coach, I can, or career coach or relationship coach, whatever, that's the workaround. The workaround is just saying you're not that thing. You give it, name it something else. She is self-identified as a therapist, as a psychologist. So when she's giving the advice, doesn't that give at least the impression that this is?
So Cheyenne decides the right move is to walk into the Breakfast Club and set the record straight. And this is exactly why you should always give a person enough rope to talk themselves into a corner. She starts explaining why nobody has been able to locate her dissertation or find any academic records connected to her doctorate. And rather than offering something clean and verifiable, a document, a reference, a straightforward answer, she launches into a story that is anything but straightforward. According to Cheyenne, she had applied for a position as a law school professor. In order to move forward with that application, she needed to request her official transcripts. So she contacts the institution. And what she gets back, according to her own account, is not confirmation or documentation. It is the beginning of a rabbit hole that somehow ends up explaining
doctorate because people can't find your dissertation online.
Mm-hmm.
How are you responding to that in this new era of your life?
I'm going to clear it up once on here. I'm not doing it again. And I'm clearing it up for my doc squad, for my fan base, for my audience who deserve to hear me address it. For the folks who have already made up their mind to not like me or not understand me, listen, I don't give a f what your narrative is. I would like for you to recreate it, double down on it, and run that. Because I don't give a f about it. Now, to my doc squad, my fan base, my folks, you know, my village, it's very simple. I went to a school, Argosy University, completed an entire program. I went back online to get my official transcripts because I was applying to a law school many years ago to be a professor there. And I had to provide my transcripts.
But before we even get to the story she told, let's start with the basics that she never addressed. If you have a doctorate, where is the diploma? Not a screenshot, not a reference to one, the actual physical document that gets handed to every single person who completes a doctoral program. Where are the graduation photographs? A doctorate is not a quiet achievement. It is one of the most significant academic milestones a person can reach. People frame those moments. They document them. They share them. Where is any of that? And, perhaps most importantly, where is the dissertation? Every doctoral program in the country requires a dissertation as the culminating academic work, and every dissertation completed at an accredited institution gets submitted to ProQuest, the national database that archives doctoral research and makes it publicly searchable. You do not have to know someone personally to verify their doctorate. You open the database, type the name, and the record either exists or it does not. Cheyenne skips past all of that entirely. No diploma, no photos, no dissertation reference, no database record. Instead, she goes straight to the explanation. She called the school, and the
school said, hey, I need my official transcripts. I need my entire thing. And there was no school. I was like, okay, I'm confused. I Google. It says this school has been shut down. I said, oh, well, they got to have records. I mean, they were accredited when I attended the school. They were accredited when I finished the program. I go and look, there is a third party that has the records. Why I contact the third party, that third party only holds records for 2 years. I was past my 2 years. So that means that I had no access to records. And then I contacted, financial aid. You can't make up financial aid. It shows that I paid for a doctoral program alongside my master's program and my undergrad program. And they said, we can fully refund you your money under one circumstance. We give you your money back. You don't get credit for not a class, a course, a program you took in this university, at this institute. So do you want us to refund you? Or do you want us not? I said no, because I didn't want to risk the chance of them saying, well, we're going to give you back your money, and it wipes out your entire program.
She goes even further, claiming she reached out to a third-party records organization that was brought in after Argosy's closure, but that this organization only retained student records for a 2-year window before charging them. So, according to her, the trail simply ran cold. Now, that explanation already has problems that anyone familiar with how federal student records work would immediately identify. But then she says something that completely unravels everything she had been carefully constructing up to that point. She mentions, almost in passing, that she received a full refund from financial aid for her doctoral program. Stop right there, because she just handed everyone watching exactly what they needed. Not a rumor, not an accusation from a critic. Her own words, on a live platform in front of millions of people. Here is why that detail matters so much. Federal financial aid is not distributed and then quietly refunded without a paper trail. The Department of Education maintains records of every disbursement, every refund, and every institution involved, regardless of whether that institution later closes. When Argosy University...
You online this week. They're going to say she has no records. They just want to hate you regardless.
No, that's fine. And it's not even that there's no records, that I don't. The school had a third party that carried the records only for a limit of 2 years. So it's not me, it's any student that attended Argosy. But again, it doesn't, how can I say it? It doesn't affect me because...
What she was actually describing, whether she realized it or not, is the federal closed school discharge program. And the eligibility rules for that program are not complicated or open to interpretation. According to official federal student aid guidelines, you only qualify for a closed school discharge if you were unable to complete your program because the institution shut down before you could finish. That is the entire basis of the discharge. It exists specifically for students who got left without a degree through no fault of their own. If you completed the program, if you graduated, if you finished your coursework and walked across that stage with a doctorate, you are categorically ineligible for that refund. The government does not give your money back to people who successfully finished what they enrolled to do. So by her own account, on her own platform, in her own words, she took the refund. Which means, under the federal definition of that program, she did not finish. She did not complete the doctoral program. She did not earn the degree. She walked into the Breakfast Club to prove she is a doctor and accidentally told the world she isn't one. You cannot hold the title and accept the discharge check at the same time. Federal eligibility rules do not allow for both realities to coexist. She attempted to recover by mentioning that she had managed to download transcripts from the earlier years of her program, but somehow the records from the final and most critical years were the ones that got lost. The beginning she can document. The part that actually proves completion,